Today we're finally going to be rebuilding Fred-BRICKS-burg. Back in July I packed up my custom Lego town of Fred-BRICKS-burg to display it at Brick Rodeo. It was a lot of fun to show it off to everyone there at the convention, but for the past 5 months it's just been sitting here in boxes. I just never got around to setting it back up. So first things first, let's unpack everything and get the buildings in a general layout, and then we can add a bunch of great new details. So I got everything unpacked and in their general layout. I got the city center in the middle, buildings on either side, and then the farms on the left side. Everything stayed intact pretty well. I'd already unpacked the farms and rebuilt those, but all the buildings stayed together perfectly fine. Even all the minifigs and grass and stuff were all still together, except for the middle section, the big octagon community center. It was always a little more tedious. I always had to take off this top part and take down the trees, but I had moved it before, the year before, and it was fine, but I guess on the fourth move here, just kind of was too much for it, kind of came apart and the whole structure's off, and this tree just like exploded, so I'm gonna have to spend a little time and rebuild that, but otherwise everything held up fairly well. Alright, there we go, good as new. We got the cupola on top, got both of the trees rebuilt, all the flowers, got the back garden section connected with the flagpole and flowers and statues, and then reattached these, what do you call them? Pergola. Got these pergolas on either side reattached. Those are really delicate and flimsy. Not my best design, but they look good once they're in place. So we got the whole town set out now. Obviously we need some roads, and if you have followed along, you know that I like to put my base plates on top of either big plates or cardboard, depending on what's underneath them, to get them all leveled out. So I just need to use some of these big plates like that to put under everything, and I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of dirt roads. I'm going to have the front row paved, even though I don't think pavement came to Fredericksburg until the 20s. This is said in the early 1900s. It's not too far of a stretch. I'm going to have one paved road in front, and then I'm going to put dirt roads on the side streets. So let's go ahead and make some dirt roads. So here are those big angled dirt roads, and once I put the buildings on top, you'll really see how much it opens up the viewing angle for the side buildings on either side of the main square. And then I got the other couple dirt roads over there. And as you can see, I laid out all the underlying base plates, which I definitely should have done first, because as you can see, I had to take all the buildings off in order to get them down and in their proper location. But I'll put the buildings back on here in a second. You can see all these will be under the base plates, and then I got the main road out front. But I kind of have a quandary here because I have this little jut out where my city is for my platform. So this road, you can see if it goes as close to this wall as I can, then I have this wasted wood strip in front. And I think I would prefer it having the dirt road in the city all the way to the edge like that, but then that creates kind of like a jut out here. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is just not using these road plates like I did at the show, and just tile off an extension of the paved road there, because I do have a big bag of 2x2 dark bluish gray tiles, so I'll just use those, I think, and finish off the road. It kind of gets a little bit hidden back here anyway. That's why I put the farms on this side, because it's kind of just some repetitive trees and stuff. So you're not missing as much. So let me get the buildings back on here and we can go from there and add a bunch of details. Alright, so there's the first angled street with the chapel, beer garden, and jail. I still really like that when you come out of the beer garden, you have a choice to go to the jail or to the chapel. You can see, looking this way, you can see the angle that all those wedge plates make. We'll really get a good look when everything else gets filled in. And then we have the peach farm and vineyard behind it with that dirt road in between. I added a lot of these leaf elements, and you'll see more in like grass and trees when I was at the convention, just to cover up the blank space in between the plates and the joints and stuff. I didn't want to redo that. It stayed pretty much all on there on the drive back and in storage, so I'm not going to redo that. But if you're wondering when that happened from the last update, I did that at the convention, and you'll see more of it over here. Now we got the community center in and the second row of buildings with the bank, hat store, clock store, and the staircase here with the old vintage cabin. And then I added just a empty lot on the end there, mainly just because I don't have another building to slide in there right now. Eventually I will. But as you can see, the angled dirt road really widens up the area. Hopefully you can see it on camera. In person it looks really great. You get a really good view of each side street. Originally it was hard to see the facades of each building because you had to stick your head in there and look over, but now you can just view everything from the front. And with the Nimitz Hotel in, that is our city layout of Fred-BRICKS-burg. Got the hotel on the side, the two streets flanking the community center, or the community center in the middle, and then the farms on the side there. And then we have two more rows of base plates in the back there, or it's two base plates deep all the way across. As you can see, the rest of my buildings are just shoved up in this corner here. My layout of Fred-BRICKS-burg is taking quite a bit of room. Like, it's really long, but this is kind of my focus now, so I want to put a lot of room to that. So what I'm thinking now is maybe I will just put my like alt builds and custom MOCs on this side, and then the standard modulars like the police station there, I think I'm gonna move those down to my old area down here and make this kind of like a official Lego set area. So that's my idea right now. Let me know what you think, but I definitely in the future plan to keep building out Fred-BRICKS-burg, so I want to have a lot of room to that. But it's looking pretty barren, so we could definitely use some details. But before we put all the minifigures in, let's go ahead and add some trees. I designed a few big pine trees to throw in the city, so let me show you those. So here's the pine tree I came up with. When I was looking for different examples in Lego, most of the pine trees I saw were kind of conical, which look more like white pines or Scotch pines, or really just fir trees. And that's just not the kind of pine trees that we have in my area. I think what we usually have are loblolly pines, which have a long, tall trunk, and then most of their needles up at the top kind of all in disarray or just disheveled a little bit. So that's what I tried to recreate here. I have a few leaves on different limbs up the trunk, not too many, and then most of the leaves are up at the top. I used those big leaf elements and then put a bunch of grass on each stud to try to imitate that needle-like for the pine trees. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it looks fairly organic and doesn't look too uniform or anything. And I like how they look when they're bunched up together. Let's go ahead and slide this green plate in back behind the hotel in that first row of buildings, and we can place a couple back there, and then place one right next to the hotel. One reason I wanted to build some pine trees was to cover up this big blank wall next to the hotel, and I think it does a really good job there. And then the two behind it just help kind of create a little grove feeling. Arguably they could be a lot taller. These pines grow really tall, and they probably could use some more needles up on the top as well, but maybe these are just some younger trees. And then I went ahead and put the fourth one back behind the jail next to that big tree stump. And while we're back here, I thought I'd go ahead and fill up that dead tree stump with some spiders. I have a whole bag of spiders I got for really cheap, so I'll just put a few in there crawling out, and later I end up putting the spider web there too, because why not? And then let's back in the peach truck next to the peach farm. This is the early 1900s, so we're going to need a few more cars here, like this black Model T kind of car. I got this design from Brick AA on Rebrickable. He has a lot of old classic cars like this, and all the instructions are free. I really like all these because they're small, just like old cars back in the day, and they actually use bicycle wheels as their four wheels, which I think is a good choice for these. So you had that bigger black one, then we got a small little red one, a green two-seater that's pretty similar, and then finally we have a little pickup, which is pretty much just like the car, but it has a little bed in the back that I was able to fit 2 barrels in the back. And then finally we have this fuel truck. I don't know if they had fuel trucks like this in America or if this was more of a European, but I thought it would work well as one of the first fuel trucks. This was also from Brick AA, but I did modify it and make it a little wider. But this is the early 1900s and not everyone had a car, so we also have some Carriages. This one here is pretty much the one from the Gandalf Arrives set, although I did switch out some colors just to make it a little more cohesive and look a little better. We'll be able to fill that with some cargo in a little bit. And then I really like this carriage that I made. It is a 4-wheeler one that holds 4 passengers. It has a little footstep to get up to the seating area, has a footrest on the front. You can hook that up to the horse, obviously. And then when we put the passenger and the driver in here, I have the driver holding a string element, which when you wrap it around the horse's neck is the perfect length to act as reins, and I just think that looks incredible. And I just really like this. I probably want to build another one of these in the future. And obviously, what's Texas without a bag full of horses? Back behind the beer garden, I'll add a little log here as a car stop, and then we can put this bad guy in the green car, waiting in the alley for the other bad guy climbing up the backside of the jail to break out their mates. So this is basically the getaway car. And then I put a farmer in the truck with the 2 barrels in the back, and I thought he could be picking up a delivery from the vineyard. We can place the red one outside the bank as the getaway car for the robber there. And then we can put the bigger black one on the main road driving through town, along with the fuel truck. And we'll place my custom horse and buggy turning out onto the main street. The cargo carriage has a load of pumpkins, but it looks like it's being tipped over right now. I put the scared farmer from the Alien Abduction set on there. Thought it was a perfect expression of him being tipped over. And we see the carriage got disconnected from the horse, who was scared by that scorpion on the ground. This is probably one of my favorite and more dynamic scenes in Fred-BRICKS-burg. We can slide in the road piece to go around that corner of the wall. And this lady riding the horse can be sneaking a treat from one of the peach trees. I think horses eat peaches, probably. They eat apples. That alley between the 2 farms is looking pretty bare, so let's go ahead and add some animals. Got a mama cow and a baby cow, a sheep and her lamb. And then I'll add this farmer guy. He looks like a bad guy, but he's just trying to get his animals back down to his farm. And this dog is checking out all the animals passing by. We can re-add the birder guy, who's one of my favorite, looking for that exotic bird he just can't quite find. And then I'll add a missing cat poster next to the church here. Just no one can seem to find that cat. The sheriff is walking in a handcuffed prisoner into the jail. We can reattach the beer garden sign, put the barmaid out front with a couple of glasses of beer, trying to entice this cowboy guy into the beer garden for a drink. I really like this construction worker, although his high-vis jacket might be a little out of the timeline. We can put the sombrero guy resting on the bench. And then his dad here is enjoying a hot dog and trying to figure out where his son wandered off to. Preacher outside the chapel is greeting this horse wandering up. and a little newsboy on the corner. Here's the hot dog guy's son. He is feeding his hot dog to this golden retriever. There's a bird up in the tree, which means there's got to be a birder nearby somewhere. I guess there is a little bit of crime in Fred-BRICKS-burg. I'll put up a few of these wanted posters on the corner of the town center so the guests can keep their eye out for that bandit. Oh, here he is. He is causing trouble on Main Street here. This guy looks like he's getting into a duel with him, but then you got the sheriff walking up trying to stop the situation and ultimately subdue that wanted guy. Got Tonto in the back feeding a carrot to the horse, which he's actually my only non-yellow minifig. I really want all my figures to be yellow, but he's a good fig, so for now I'm just going to place him back there. We got a tourist reading the information plaque outside that vintage cabin, and the resident above the clock store trying to get his attention. And why not another horse? This is Texas. This traveler's headed out west, and it looks like he could use a stay in the Nimitz Hotel, which was the last place to take a hot bath until you reached, I think it was California. The grandma and her daughter were staying up in the penthouse suite. It looks like she's having a hard time just trying to keep up with her from running out in the street. Lady on the corner here is yelling up to her friend on the balcony. And then I just recently picked up these two dark red hotel servants. They look like they're twins, and I thought they would be great for working in the Nimitz Hotel. One's trying to flag down that traveler, and then it looks like the other one is trying to keep that horse from eating all the ivy off the side of the hotel. Another horse for the cowgirl coming out of the clock store, and this one's eating some grass in the main square. And we got a police deputy heading out onto the main street. I went ahead and made a few of these sapling pine trees, which is a pretty common technique I've seen a lot of builders use. It's simple, but I think it looks pretty good. Put a few back here next to my big pine trees. And then I'll place a few more on this empty lot next to the bank, along with the bush. Looks like we got a bank robber here who's hiding behind the bush, about to sneak around and rob the bank, but it looks like he's too late because the bank is just being robbed by that other guy under the awning. Can help fill in the gap a little more here between that old cabin and the Nimitz Hotel with another pine tree, with a couple bushes and a few more pine trees. And then I went ahead and put a pig and a couple of piglets in the back there. The feral pig should probably be black, but I think Lego only makes pigs in pink. I really like this recent park ranger figure and I wanted to include her, so I'll have her here trying to nab a stray cat. And now Fred-BRICKS-burg is looking pretty full. We got lots of little scenes and details everywhere. Plenty of minifigs roaming around doing their daily activities. Lots of horses, obviously, because it's Texas. A couple of good carriages. And several awesome old-timey cars. I think those trees turned out pretty good. And just a lot of activity on the corner here. This will probably be my last city update for the year, so I want to make sure to wish you a Merry Christmas from Fred-BRICKS-burg.